Sometimes a book is so much more than just a story. Sometimes it's a piece of evidence. And in this case, it might just be the motive for a crime that's gone unsolved for decades. And it all starts right here.
So, at the very heart of this mystery is a book. It's called ከአድማስ ባሻገር, which translates to Beyond the Horizon. And look, on the surface, this thing was a huge deal, a classic of Ethiopian literature, a novel that people felt really captured the soul of the nation.
But then, something happened. Just a year after it was published, in 1984, its author, a man named Bealu Girma, just walked out of his home and was never seen again. Vanished, without a trace.
And that's the mystery we're going to dig into. How does a famous, celebrated author become a target? How do you become a threat to an entire government? Well, the answer, it seems, is hidden somewhere in the pages of his last book.
Okay, so to really get what happened here, we've got to understand the man at the center of it all. Who was Bealu Girma? Now, the first thing you need to get is that Bealu Girma wasn't just some random writer scribbling away in a dusty room. No way. This guy was a major public figure, a really respected journalist, a beloved author, and get this, he'd even been the head of the government's own Ministry of Information. He knew the system from the inside out.
And yeah, that inside knowledge, it made his writing so potent. He had this reputation for really sharp, super insightful social commentary, but it was all wrapped up in this prose that was just beautiful and powerful. Bottom line, he wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. Which, of course, brings us right back to that central piece of evidence in his disappearance, the book itself. So the second ከአድማስ ባሻገር hit the shelves. It was an absolute sensation. It's written in Amharic, which is this beautiful flowing script you see in Ethiopia, and the story just completely captivated readers all across the country.
You have to remember, this was a story that really deeply resonated with the Ethiopian people, and it was published during a pretty turbulent time, to say the least.
So what was it actually about? Well, the novel is incredible. It masterfully weaves together this beautiful love story, but it's set against this backdrop of deep political disillusionment. It's really about the failures of a revolution that had promised so much, but in the end, delivered so little.
Okay, a love story, a critique of the times? That doesn't exactly sound like a death sentence, does it? Which leads us to the big question. What on earth did he write that was so dangerous?
Well, to answer that, you really have to understand the world Bealu Girma was living in. This wasn't just any time or any place. We're talking about a country that was completely under the thumb of a brutal military dictatorship.
The power in charge was a military junta called the Derg. They seized power back in 1974, kicking out the emperor, and they ruled Ethiopia with an absolute iron fist for more than a decade. This was a regime built entirely on fear and control.
And this really sets up the central conflict of the whole era, right? On one side, you have this ideal of art as a space for free expression. But on the other side, you have the harsh reality of the Derg's Ethiopia, a state where any, and I mean any, dissent was just brutally crushed.
So for people like writers, artists, intellectuals, the risks were sky high. We're talking severe censorship of everything you create, the constant threat of being thrown in prison for stepping even slightly out of line, and, in the most extreme cases, forced disappearances. Exactly what seems to have happened to Bealu Girma.
And that's why this book was basically a weapon. See, ከአድማስ ባሻገር wasn't just a story to them. It was seen as a direct, albeit thinly veiled, critique of the Derg regime itself. It was putting their failures, their brutality, their corruption right out there for everyone to see.
So, the Derg tried to erase Bealu Girma, and they definitely tried to erase his book. But, ideas are a funny thing. They're notoriously hard to kill, and his legacy? Well, it turned out to be way more powerful than his oppressors ever imagined. Right after he vanished, the government banned ከአድማስ ባሻገር. They pulled every single copy they could find from the shelves. But here's the thing. It was too late. People had already read it, and they started making secret copies, passing them from person to person. The word survived, hidden in the shadows.
And now, think about this. More than 40 years have passed. The mystery of his disappearance is still officially unsolved. But the book's power? It has only grown stronger. Today, Bealu Girma is remembered as a martyr for free expression, not just in Ethiopia, but all over. And his novel, ከአድማስ ባሻገር, is celebrated as a timeless classic of African literature. It's really a testament to the incredible courage of one man who dared to write the truth. Even the title itself, Beyond the Horizon, it feels like a message, doesn't it?
It speaks to this future of freedom that he was writing toward, even if he knew, deep down, he might not live to see it himself.
Which really just leaves us with one final big question. I think this story of Bealu Girma and his forbidden book kind of offers its own answer. You can silence a person for sure, but can you ever truly silence an idea?